Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. Today we have Field Mcconnell in the house, everybody. So please, if you have a question for Field, raise your hand and I will unmute your mic at some point in this podcast. Or if you can't speak, you can write underneath his logo on the wall. It says Field Mcconnell, your question, and I will read that as well. Please, everybody, I can't implore you enough to please be careful who you listen to, who you follow, and what you're putting into your mind. It's a lot of craziness going on out there, a lot of fear mongering, doom and gloom, naysayers. Just ignore it. It's a lot of noise. And they're trying to keep that divide in between this Trump supporters. So you're seeing a lot of influencers that say that they supported Trump, voted for Trump, and now all of a sudden they're supporting these protests. Be careful, everybody. You're seeing that on TikTok. You're seeing it on Instagram. It's everywhere. So again, please be careful what you're listening to and who you're following. Stay out of the noise. Hang on to the positive because there's so much positive that is happening, everybody. This is what we have been talking about for so long. We've been talking to our friends and family, warning them. We got ridiculed. We got all of that. But guess what? We're here, everybody. We are here at the. I don't know. I think we're here at the scare event. How long that takes, I don't know. It could be the coming days, coming weeks, but I do think we're going to see a lot of craziness throughout the summer. So please, if you are in areas that you're seeing protests, stay away from the protests. I do believe it's a trap. If they're trying to get people to go down there, please be careful. If you take your children to work or if you drive in those certain areas on a daily basis, take a different route. It is not worth it to get involved in that situation. Also, too, everybody, if you come into the podcast late, you can listen to the podcast on the podcast hosts, which are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Podbean, Riverside, and Amazon Music. We are being listened to in over 100 countries, everybody, so we are making some great positive noise. Also, the social medias are Jenny Jareed Facebook, at Jenny Jareed X, at Jenny_Jareed on X, at J Jareed Rumble, at J Jareed True Social, at J Jareed Instagram, the Revival of America right here on Telegram, and the Revival of America over on YouTube. And then TikTok is at the official J Jareed. Also, for those of you that want to tell your story or your journey, please feel free to send your information. Give me a little snippet of your story. I will read through it. I will contact you, and we do vet these because unfortunately we do have the fraudsters that like to try to give fake stories just to get onto the show. And you could submit it to TROA submissions at yahoo.com, and TROA stands for the Revival of America. I made a separate email for that because a lot of the stories and submissions were getting buried underneath my regular email over at the Revival of America at yahoo.com. So please submit your stories to TROA submissions at yahoo.com, and we will get in touch with you. Also, last but not least, if you have not signed up for the newsletter, it is free. Go to the website at therevivalofamerica.com, and you can sign up for the newsletter to get the latest updates on the podcast as well as the weekly show lineup. So with that, everybody, Field is in the house. Today we are going to be talking probably about a few things. But I think, Field, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Oklahoma bombings as well as Waco, correct?
Yes, and also I've recently received so many challenge or answers from the challenge that I posted. I was hoping to find the top 10 treasons committed against the U.S. Of America, United States, and I was only looking for 10, and I've received 14 as of today, and I think that they're very good, and I don't mind putting my name on this explosive piece of history. And if I was smart enough to know how to post it on Jenny's wall, I would. But I have a friend. I have several friends. One in Indiana, one there's a hummingbird at the window right now. I guess he's hungry. Anyway, enough about that. Yeah, if people have been relying on the U.S. mainstream media for news about treasons against America, the treason started a long, long time ago. 1871 is the earliest treason I'm aware of at this point, but also Pearl Harbor That was 1941. And this hummingbird is absolutely adamant. It wants to get in here. Apparently, maybe the hummingbird has some reasons to report from his perspective or hers. Anyway, over to you, Jenny. Thank you for allowing me to come on your podcast.
Of course. And we're going to be back on the regular schedule or podcast next week, everybody. So Field will be back here Monday. So will John Baxter. And then Derek Johnson will be here as well. I have an hour today for Fields. Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit shorter today because I do have family that just arrived in town for the holiday this weekend. So first of all, I want to wish Field Mcconnell a happy Father's Day. And then all of you fathers out there, have a great, wonderful Father's Day and enjoy your family, your friends, whatever you may do. And just enjoy, because what's taking place out there right now is what we've been waiting for. So enjoy your family and your friends this weekend. And again, happy Father's Day. So Field, let's talk. Do you want to start with these treasonous, your little contest thing here? Or do you want to talk more about the Waco massacre and then how it ties into the Oklahoma bombings, and then talk about your contest? How do you want to do this? It's your show, my friend. Are you there? Field, hello, hello. We lost you.
Oh, yeah, no, you didn't lose me. I'm not good with technology, but I got the thrust of your question. And so I'm only good at finding traitors and finding global child traffickers. As far as local pedophiles, I don't have time for that level, although I'm proud to say that when I moved to Plum City, there were 3 known pedophiles in town, and there's none anymore. But if, with your permission, I'll just read the title of the 14 treasons and who committed them. And then I will go on to Waco, with your permission. And from there, I'll go on to the Murrah building. And I'll just give a little advance on who did Waco and Murrah. It's 3 lesbians. One of them's my own sister, one of them's Hillary Clinton, and one of them is, or was, I don't know if she's alive, Janet Reno. And if they don't like my loose lips, try to close them. Okay, here come the treasons quickly, but hopefully clearly. Uh, okay, here we
Field, you
go.
cracked me
I'm
up.
going to get. Oh, that's my job. I mean, I'm making light of some of the darkest parts of American history, and almost always they have a president involved. And these presidents, the ones that haven't died yet, and I'm happy to say I participated in the expediting the elimination of George H.W. Bush. And we were up against a wall there because he was so old and lost in space that we had to get him while he was still alive, or it couldn't be called an execution. Number 1 so far, 9/11 attacks George H.W. Bush. Number 2, Extortion 17, the helicopter that took out 38 men and a dog, a service dog from the SEALs. Extortion 17 was done by Barry Swatero, commonly known as Barack Obama. My sister, by the way, gave him that identity of of Barack Hussein Obama. That's not his real name. 3, the USS Liberty, Lyndon Baines Johnson did that. 4, and this is something that I don't believe I've talked about at length, and I will at some point. The United States Senior Executive Service, George H.W. Bush and Christine Marcy, my sister. And if anyone listening is not familiar with the United States Executive Service, that's USSES, U.S. Senior Executive Service. If you Google it, you can come up to speed. It's plain. It's easy to read. Okay, number 5, District of Columbia. And that was done, it's a District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871, done by Ulysses S. Grant. The number 6, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. 7, military technology transfer to China, Bill Clinton. And I'm involved in that because they exported the Boeing uninterruptible autopilot to China, and they paid a significant monetary settlement. That's not good enough for me. I want to see someone executed, and I will if it hadn't already happened. Number 8, attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, Barack Obama. Gee, where do we hear these names all the time? 9, Branch Davidian siege in Waco, Texas. Not to correct my own spelling, but it's 17 miles outside of Waco, Texas, I believe. The perpetrator there was Bill Clinton, taking the U.S. off the gold standard. Richard Nixon, and by the way, I'm going to post all of this in a brief paragraph on Jenny's wall as soon as. Gee, I wish I had a corresponding secretary, but she went to the dark side, so I'll find one. Um, yeah, that's okay. I didn't mention anybody's name, so I hope. Well, never mind. I don't hope for anything. I just thank God for everything. Vietnam War, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Okay, there's that's number 2 for that bastard. I might add he's dead. Election interference is number 12, and that involves numerous presidents that use the Dominion and Smartmatic election machines, or whatever you call it. Number 13, border invasion, Joe Biden. I think he's been dealt with, and I think he's probably been dealt with since some date in 2020. We'll find out. Oh, here's the third one for Barack Obama. I think he's the poster boy because he's got 3 on the list, and I think that's a record. Crossfire Hurricane, and I was going to read it, but I don't have to because as soon as I find a corresponding secretary to replace the writer from a certain magazine that's probably not aware that somebody else is writing the stuff, with her byline. But now that I've done that, and I promise to post it on your wall, or ensure it gets posted on your wall, even if I have to mail it to you, Jenny, maybe we should just take this opportunity to talk about what I'm supposed to talk about today, which is the Waco event. And I can start whenever you'd like me to, especially if I can find my notes. No, go
Field, if
ahead.
you want, you can send me that information that you just read off via text message or email it to me, whatever you want, and then I can post it on the wall for you, no problem.
Oh, that'd be great. What email should I send it to?
You can send it to me. It's kind of long. So what I'll do is it's the revival of America at yahoo.com. So I'll just text it to you right now. And then you can click on that email, copy and paste it. And then when you send me the email, just paste it over on your email. So that way you don't have to type it all out.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, anytime you want to go ahead and start with the Branch Davidian massacre over there in Waco and then tie it into the Oklahoma bombings, that'd be awesome.
Yes, and before I talk about either of these, and I'm going to talk about both of them, and I know we're time constricted, I'll get it done. Both the Waco siege that killed a number of children, a number close to 50, I believe. It's going to be in the very short post that you get. And the Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma City, those were both done with the approval of Bill Clinton and the participation of Hillary Clinton and Janet Reno and my sister, Christine Marcy. And if any of those 3 are still alive and they want to sue me for libel, I would just tell them not to get their panties in a twist. I would tell them to take time and realize that we are now under constitutional law after being under admiralty law from 1871 until earlier this year, 2025. So some people think of this attack near Waco as the Branch Davidian siege, SIEGE, and some people call it the Waco Massacre. It was done by the U.S. federal government, and I want to say it was the trio of deep state lesbians that were given the majority of the credit or the blame, and that's because William Jefferson Clinton is sort of a coward, and he didn't even use his own name attached to that. In fact, both of the ones I'm talking about today, the Waco Massacre and the Murrah Building in Oklahoma City. But back to the Waco siege, or however you siege, that occurred in a time frame of February 28 to April 19 of 1993, whereas Waco, the Murrah Building was done approximately 2 years later. And the Mount Carmel Center was the building that was under attack, and it was, I said 17 miles earlier. I misspoke. It's 13 miles northeast of Waco, Texas. And the rationalization for going in there, killing those children, and these losers in Washington, D.C., who are one by one being eliminated, which is, too little, too late, but you can only kill them once, so we'll have to settle for it being late. And we just wish that we, being loyal oath holders or oath keepers with oaths such as the four I swore to, and I've not vacated any of those oaths. The U.S. Navy, the U.S. Marine Corps, the U.S. Air Force, and one that's known only to me, and the only living person that has known it in the last 6 years was my wife, who died, and it wasn't mysterious. It was thyroid cancer. So nobody get upset. I mean, it's okay to get upset that my wife's died, but she was very, very helpful to what I did, and she had the nerve to marry me while she knew what I do. And anyway, the rationalization to go to this Waco thing and start a fire that killed so many people was the federal shadow government thought that there were they had compound and arrest warrants for David Koresh and several of the group members. The ATF had planned a sudden daylight raid at the ranch in order to serve these warrants. Any advantage of surprise was lost when a local reporter who had been tipped off, about the raid, asked for directions from a U.S. Postal Service mail carrier who was coincidentally Koresh's, and that's David Koresh, Koresh. It was his brother-in-law. So there's good families and there's bad families. And Christine Marcy, Janet Reno, Hillary Clinton, and her supposed husband, Bill Clinton, who's not even a Clinton, he's a Rockefeller. Gee, that shouldn't surprise anyone, unless you're new to this. Resulting in the death, they had some spontaneous and intense gunfire. It erupted, resulting in the death of 4 ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agents, and 6 Branch Davidians. Following the ATF entering the property and its failure to execute the search warrant, a siege was initiated by the FBI. Gee, so the FBI they were corrupt even before James Comey, it would appear. Between the parties attempted to reach a compromise. The negotiations between those parties was not successful. After 51 days, the FBI launched a tear gas attack in an attempt to force the Branch Davidians out of the compound's buildings. Shortly thereafter, the Mount Carmel Center became engulfed in flames. The fire and the reaction to the final attack with the group resulted in the deaths of 76 Branch Davidians, including 20 to 28 children and David Koresh himself. Now, it's significant that there were 20 to 28 children killed at Waco because these trio of lesbians, led by their pimp, Bill Clinton, they didn't really play by the rules very often, did they? But the FBI and Bill Clinton's trio started the fire, citing evidence from audio surveillance recordings of very specific discussions between Koresh and others about pouring more fuel on the piles of dried grass as the fire started, and from aerial footage showing at least 3 simultaneous ignition points at different locations in the building complex. Pardon me, I'm technologically illiterate. The FBI contends that their agents did not fire any live rounds on the day of the fire. They probably also contend there was not a U.S. Army tank nearby with a huge artillery piece on top of this tank. And I'm not suggesting they started the fire with an artillery round out of the tank, but neither Janet Reno nor my sister Christine Marcy nor Hillary Clinton were trained by the military. In fact, they would have been excluded from the military back then because back then, before Obama came along, homosexuals of either claimed gender were not allowed to be in the military, which it's sort of offensive to me that Joe Biden and some others worked successfully to not only allow homosexuals in the military, but to encourage it. And the reason why I think it's significant, and it was just, that prior to these liberal idiots, the reason they didn't want homosexuals in the military is so they're so easy to manipulate. And we saw that manipulation in Benghazi when Hillary Clinton squelched the possibility of a remedy to the attack. And but I think Hillary has been done with, just like my sister. A little bit late, but better late than never. The Branch Davidians, also known as the Branch, were a religious group that originated in 1955 from a schism in the Shepherd's Rod Davidians following the death of the Shepherd's Rod founder, Victor Houteff, Houteff. Houteff founded the Davidians based on his prophecy of an imminent apocalypse involving the second coming of Christ and the defeat of the enemies of Babylon. Well, we're still working on that, and it'll get done according to God's schedule, not according to Houteff's schedule. The original Davidian group gained members as its leadership moved the church to a hilltop several miles east of Waco, like 13 miles northeast of Waco. I'm going to stop right there briefly and say, if anybody knows what's going on in Minneapolis over the last 4 days, every day I've heard a distinctive sound of a helicopter flying over my house, and I'll tell you why they fly over my house. It's because it's high terrain, and it's about midway between the Minneapolis airport and a military airport um, southeast of here. And I'll get the name of that airport as soon as my brain re-engages. But the reason they fly over my house isn't because they're protecting me or surveilling me. It's because I'm on a beeline between the two airports, and the helicopters in question have all been CH-47, which is the Army version of the Navy and Marine Corps CH-46. They make a distinctive sound, and they go back and forth over my house twice a day, once going southeast from Minneapolis to the other airport, and once coming back to the northwest. And the helicopters tend, even though they have radio navigation equipment, because they're down so low, they often do land recognition navigation, and that's why my house and property are so useful. It's the highest point around here, and when I say around here, I'm talking about the midpoint between the two airports. And the airport that I haven't remembered the name of is in central Wisconsin, and it's not Central Wisconsin Airport. That's a different one, but it's an Army and Air National Guard training facility. And I will remember it before I'm done talking, I hope. Maybe not. Few years later, they being the Branch Davidian, relocated again to a much larger site southeast of the city. In 1959, Victor's widow, Florence Houteff, announced that the expected Armageddon was about to take place, and members were told to gather at the center to await the event. Many of them built houses, others stayed in tents, trucks, buses, or other accommodations, and most of them sold their possessions. Gee, that was a little premature, I would say. After the failure of the prophecy, I don't think people should look for humans to be prophetic. I think prophetic and pathetic are very similar. And I'm speaking about my former corresponding secretary, who claimed that she was a prophet. I don't think she could even spell prophet, but enough about that. In 1964, a meeting resulted in the discussion of the group, with Howell leading one faction called the Branch Davidians, and George Roden leading the competing faction. After the split, George Roden ran Howell and his followers off Mount Carmel at gunpoint. Howell and his group relocated to Palestine, Texas. After the death of Lois Roden in November of 1986, and probate of her estate in January 1987, Howell attempted to gain control of Mount Carmel Center by force. George had dug up the casket of Anna from the Davidian cemetery and had challenged Howell to a resurrection contest to prove who was the rightful heir to the leadership. Howell instead went to the police and claimed Roden was guilty of corpse abuse. Who does he think he is? Jimmy Savile? But anyway, a lot of people don't know Jimmy Savile, but he used
I
to
know who he
enjoy.
is.
Okay, do you know what
he's an evil man.
Go ahead.
He's an evil man.
He's dead. That's what happens to evil people. But the crime that he committed over and over was necrophilia. Now, do you remember what the definition of that is, Jenny? I bet you do. Sex with a corpse.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess the corpses never complain, but maybe the perpetrators' neighbors or loved ones probably detect some aroma that's unpleasant. On November 3rd of 1987, Howell and seven armed companions tried to get into the Mount Carmel chapel, intending to photograph the body in the casket. Oh, another perversion. Incriminating evidence Roden was um, informed of. The interlopers opened fire. The sheriff's department responded about 20 minutes into the gunfight, during which Roden had been wounded. Sheriff Howell got Howell on the phone and told him to stop shooting and surrender. Howell and his companions, dubbed the Rodenville Eight by the media, were tried for attempted murder on April 12th of 1988. Seven were acquitted, and the jury hung on Howell's verdict. The county prosecutors did not press the case further. Yeah, there's a lot of skullduggery in the Department of Justice, and I was a victim of that, and I'm not singing the blues. I don't even mind mentioning the judge in the 17th District of Florida, whose name is Dan Casey. He's guilty of several crimes now that we're under constitutional law, and he's guilty. I believe he's guilty of cruel and unusual punishment against me because he knew my wife was terminally ill with thyroid cancer, and I just asked to go home from Texas to Wisconsin, and he wouldn't let me. And he told me that I might become a flight risk. Well, the guy is obviously a boob. No offense to certain anatomical features of one of our genders, and it's one of the main two, not one you imagine. And then because you're under 15 or 16, you can tell your mother or father that you identify as something else. What a lovely country we used to have before these weirdos took over. While waiting in the trial, or waiting for the trial, Roden was put in jail under a corrupt again, court charges. Yeah, I had a bunch of corrupt court charges. In fact, I also had a lack of due process. But there is no statute of limitations on fraud, and it vitiates all the wrong charges. And so I look forward to justice in my case at some point. But philosophically, that won't bring my wife niece back. So I'm not in a big hurry. In fact, I'm sort of dragging my feet because I'm writing a book that's going to expose the crimes of Ron DeSantis of Florida, the governor there. And notice I didn't say anything about the $10 million that he misallocated into his own wife's, whatever you call it, uh, some type of a outfit that supposedly helps people. I think that Governor Ron DeSantis and his wife thinking that helping themselves to federal government dollars in the sum of 10 million is somehow okay. Hey, Ronnie baby, and I know you weren't with Ronnie and the Daytonas that wrote the song about Denise. They had style. They had a little intellect. Come to think about, little intellects might apply to some people that misappropriate federal dollars into their own purse. And if you think I'm suggesting that Ron DeSantis has a purse, no, that's not my intention. On August 5th of 1989, Howell released the New Light audio tape in which he said God told him, oh yeah, this is like the chat room I came from. That the former corresponding secretary thinks that God told her something. Well, anyway, back in the case of the male, God told him to procreate with the women in the group. Oh, how lovely. So you go around to all the women in a church group and say, God told me to have sex with you. Well, it's no church I'd ever go to. In fact, I go to church 7 days a week. It's called prayer, and I do it alone generally. Anytime somebody wants a prayer, all I want to know is what the prayer is about, and I don't want any more details because God already has sufficient details because He knows what we're doing and what we're thinking. Um, this involves separating married couples in the group who had to agree that only he could have sexual relations with the wives. Now, maybe whoever blew up the Branch Davidian might have been somewhat on the right track, but they should have let God handle it, not a U.S. Army tank and a bunch of flame producing uh, armament that caused the death of 28 children. Howell filed a petition in the California State Superior Court in Pomona on May 15th, 1990, to legally change his name for publicity and business purposes to Koresh. Oh, lovely. It's funny how people change their names, like J.D. Vance, for instance. And I think somewhere on Jenny's wall, there might be a piece on who is J.D. Vance. Well, he's not J.D. Vance. So, and he's serving as the president of the U.S. right now. And if Ed and I talk, and we do, I talk to him verbally and he talks to me with actions. And I can tell when the actions come from God and when they come from my imagination. But the Sinful Messiah, a series of articles by Mark England and Darlene McCormick, reported allegations that Koresh had physically abused children in the compound and had committed statutory rape by taking multiple underage brides. You know, this is a point where you start to question the separation of church and state. But then again, Koresh, by his actions, where he was allowed to pick anybody's wife and enjoy her company, and or he could pick any of the children in the compound, and whether they enjoyed his company or not, he would go ahead and sodomize them. So I think that that gives people a good glimpse of what happened at the Branch Davidian compound, and what happened was murder enabled by the three lesbian people in the deep state government: Hillary Clinton, Janet Reno, and my own sister. So should we go on to the Murrah building at this point, Jenny, or do you have any other suggestions or requests?
Yeah, if you want to, because it all ties in together, right? So if you want to do that, that's great.
Okay, I'll just need to do something right now very briefly.
Unless
Uh,
unless you want to
Go
take
ahead.
real quickly, Field, unless you want to take questions regarding that, and then we can do part two because you're coming back on Monday, and you can talk about the Oklahoma bombings. You want to do that?
Oh, okay. Yes, and I will
Yeah.
come up with another subject so we can go to questions and answers right now. And I would like to encourage people that have questions to take a look at all the stuff I've reported in the last 24 years, starting with 9/11. And here it is 24 years later. And I've talked to numerous elected administrations, and none of them have done jack diddly. However, I think that we're under a new administration now, and that administration is called the Trump administration, and he's got a bunch of loyal white hats, and they know who I am, and I think anyone can see that I have not been arrested by the white hats in the military that are loyal to Donald Trump, the president, and they're also loyal to their oaths of office when they raised their right hand and said, I will defend the United States of America and the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I've said this a fair amount of times on Jenny's show, but I'm not aware of too many foreign enemies we have. I think that the enemies typically are ensconced in the Congress, and that's both houses of the Congress. The pardon me, the Congress as well as the Senate. And notice I didn't say anything about Mitch McConnell of Kentucky being put in a van that ostensibly was a hospital van, but I don't know why he had, I don't know any reason why he would have a cast on his left lower leg if it wasn't to conceal a GPS monitor. And until Mitch McConnell corrects me, then I don't think he could sue me for libel. And it would be an interesting case because I know a lot about Mitch McConnell, including being married to a cocaine trafficker billionaire and also being kicked out of the U.S. Army for being a homosexual. And so if Mitch McConnell wants to settle this like a gentleman, just change your name. Maybe you could become Mitch Koresh, for instance. But stop acting like a McConnell because you're not. McConnells don't tolerate weasels. Over to you, Jenny, for Q&A.
All right, everybody. Thank you, Field. All right, everybody. We're going to take this podcast to 11:15 my time, which would be 1:15 Central Standard Time. So if you guys have questions for Field regarding this topic or, anything that he's been involved with, please feel free to raise your hand and I will unmute your mic. You can ask your question to Field. And then we'll do a part 2 since we're coming back on Monday with Field for the Oklahoma part of it. So Linda Hendrickson, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead and ask Field your question. And I did see a Sue up here. So Sue, if you're still in here, you disappeared. So raise your hand and I will unmute your mic again. Go ahead, Linda.
Hi, Field. How long do you
Hi.
think it's going to take before this goes mainstream?
Jenny knows that I don't like to offer my opinion because my opinion is no better than Mitch McConnell's opinion of his manhood, which is pretty vapid. Let me spell that for you. VAPID. He looks more like a turtle than a human, but that's a personal attack, I guess. But I didn't mean to offend turtles because the turtle can at least pull his head and his neck into his shell, whereas Mitch McConnell has no place to hide. He can't run from his past. He can't run from a white hat that may be retired, maybe not, who knows. He'll never run from me because I don't calm down until I hear of the execution of my enemies, who are always either traitors to the United States, like
Right.
Mike Pence, dead as of March, and or they're
March of
child
this year?
traffickers.
Was
March
that
of
March of this year?
2025.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's March. Yeah. And if you want to look it up, the website that posts these executions is real, 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 raw, RAW, news, NEWS.com. So I think that I can't give you a date or even an accurate forecast, but I think it will be maybe sometime within 30 days of the 4th of July. There's some good things happening on the 4th of July, and this would just be icing on the cake.
Sweet.
Could I add any other questions you might have for me?
Oh, I got so many, but I can't. My mind's just blown.
Thank you, Linda.
That's,
Yep.
yep.
All right,
Thanks, Linda. It
Miss.
blows my mind too. Pardon me,
Miss-
Jenny.
No, you're good. Miss Sue, your mic is unmuted. Go ahead and ask Field your question if you had a question for him. Go ahead, Sue. Okay. All right, Field, I have a couple questions here on the wall. It says from Cali Chick, question. Field, preemptive strike on Iran, the moves, counter moves going. Any help in deciphering? So many layers. Oh, okay, so answer that one first, and then I'll go into the next one. So, preemptive strike on Iran, the moves, counter moves going. Any help in deciphering?
Yeah, I haven't been following that. I mean, I'm aware of it, but as you know, Jenny, there was a time about 3 or 4 weeks ago where I was putting in 18-hour days, 5 in a row, doing the weird stuff I do. But I I don't think that Donald Trump would authorize a nuclear strike on Iran if his problem with Iran is the fact that they're trying to develop nuclear weapons. As we've recently seen with China, Donald Trump is a master negotiator because he probably whispers to his soon to be victims, let's pretend like we're getting along. And then if you don't honor our, oh, I thought I was whispering. I thought that was him whispering. Yeah, no, I think he's very forceful. And you know what? When you're working for God, there's no reason to pussyfoot around. You know, be forceful or be gone. And we're not going to see the removal of Donald John Trump anytime soon. And I don't think we're going to see the removal of Iran. Donald Trump did get a little thing going with the Houthis in Yemen. They've been taught not to mess with American ships in the Persian Gulf or anywhere else. Uh, Basically, and I'm not quoting Trump, I'm just trying to give you an idea of how Trump thinks. If you touch one hair on the head of an American, we will rain down hell upon you and your companions. So I don't know if that helps with the question, but I can only answer questions that I know, and I really don't like to offer opinions because I see so many opinionated people that presume to have podcasts that tell the truth, and some of these people can't even spell truth. Maybe they think it's Baby Ruth. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of people that have a bigger mouth than they have a bigger mind. So on to the next question, if we have one, Jenny.
Okay, thank you, Field. So I don't know, then maybe you may not be able to answer this next one, but it says, so the second part to this says, so many layers. Obama's Iran connection bothered, wondered if City of London had Iran via BP oil. Was that the deep state part? Nuke part, their grab? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that Obama, well, first of all, I'd like to find out from real raw news, and I know how to communicate with them. And I would like to think the guy that runs it knows my name. I've never met him. I've never talked to him. But in my case, my actions speak louder than my words. And a case in point is when Mike Pence was accused by me of treason on the 1st of July of 2019. Somehow, mysteriously, my opinion ended up in the White House, and that was Donald Trump's White House. And Mike Pence and Paul Ryan, who was the Speaker of the House of Congress, they boarded Air Force Two, which is the call sign of any aircraft that has as a passenger the Vice President of the United States aboard. And somehow somebody who's a white hat got that message to Donald Trump's people. And so when the airplane with Mike Pence, the pedophile killer of 82 children, and his wife used to like to watch. I'm not sure if it was the sodomy or the execution, but either way, that wife is guilty, as guilty as Mike Pence. That's my opinion. And I seldom express an opinion, but I just express that. Makes me sick. What a pair. Anyway, the next day, let's see, July 2nd, the aircraft, Air Force Two, called the tower, that's the air traffic control tower at Andrews Air Force Base, which is now referred to as Joint Forces Base Andrews, interesting, the name of the uh, uh, location. It's in Clinton, Clinton, Maryland. And so they called up, and the conversation went something like this. Um, Andrews Tower, this is Air Force Two, request clearance to New Hampshire, ATC clearance, to which they heard something like this. Air Force Two, you will not be receiving a clearance to New Hampshire. And also, you're not going to be cleared to taxi. We recommend, we see that your rotating beacon is on, indicating your engines must be either ready to start or have already been started. And if they're started, shut them down, and you do not have permission to start your engines. You will not have permission to taxi your aircraft, and you will not be going to New Hampshire today. That was the 2nd of July. Then the 3rd, that was the time between the 2nd and 4th, the assassination that had been planned by John Sununu in New Hampshire. And what's his name? Paul Ryan and the other evil party, Mike Pence, past tense, past tense Pence, tough shit. Yeah, crime has a payment due, and with Trump in office, those payments are enforced. Thank you, President Trump, on behalf of the other white hats and myself in this case. So anyway, did I come close to answering your question, Jenny?
No, you were talking about because the question is so many layers. Obama's Iran connection wondered if City of London had Iran via BP oil. Was it the deep state part, nuke part? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, Iran was subject to the whims of the City of London. And for people who don't know what the City of London is, it's not a city named London in England. It's a piece of sovereign territory surrounded by England, and it's on the River Thames, Thames, and they, along with the cabal and the deep state of America, were trying to run the world. And their master game was trying to destroy the United States of America so it can continue to be a colony of England. Well, that didn't work out too well for the City of London or the unlawful people in the United Kingdom and the City of London government. But the City of London is not London, England. It's a district, a financial district, and they thought they could buy the world. Well, you can buy a suppository, but I'm still going to stick the truth up your ass. And so the longer you hold out, City of London, Khazarian Mafia, the deep state of America, which is basically gone now, a lot of the major players in the deep state of the United States of America, they're either deceased after a tribunal and an execution, or they're in a lifetime lockup awaiting their tribunal. Now, I think that's where Mitch DeWitch is, but if he's not, then he or his co-conspirators can come to Plum City and join the crowd of people that are lined up so they can all kiss my rear end. I don't know why other people, I know that the White Hats and Trump mean business, but this is coming up on Father's Day. And wouldn't it be nice if fathers did two things? They loved their wife and they taught their children. And I'm not referring to a song by Crosby, Still and Nash where it goes, teach your children well. You know, a lot of men inseminate a woman that they may or may not be married to, and then they abandon, you know, the pregnant lady. I said lady, I should have said woman. a lady wouldn't participate in that. And I've known a lot of ladies, and I don't mean I've known them in the biblical sense, but my not so recent wife, she died on the 30th of December of 2020. She was certainly a lady, but she's a lady you don't want to engage. Now, I'm not talking about engage in terms of matrimony. I'm talking about engaging in a match of wits or a match of nerve. She was very dedicated. She was very aware of what I did. It didn't scare her a bit. And, I told her once, and I think it was 2015, that if I ever propose to you, I think you need to think it over, because you could go from a newlywed to a widow within 7 days. And yet she had the nerve to get married for the first time. So I still don't know if I answered your question. Wasn't it about Iran? Well, Iran was doing what it's told to do by the City of London. And the City of London is and was influenced by what the Jesuits at the Vatican wanted and what the deep state of the United States of America wanted. And the connection between Jesuits and the United States, this is rather colorful. So if you don't like colorful history, true history, it'd be a good time to go to the bathroom or go get another cup of iced tea or hot tea or coffee. Georgetown University has a close relationship to the Jesuits, and Georgetown University, to put this figuratively so you can imagine it, if the bad people and I'm not talking about the Vatican as a whole, I'm talking about the Jesuits in the Vatican, if they wanted to pump BS into the mind of American students and congressional members, the best place to stick their enema tube would be in Georgetown University, because they really represent the anus of America. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you, Field. All right, I've got one last question for you before I end it. From Dennis Hanna, is this Iran stuff the lead up to the scare event?
I don't know. See, I don't speculate. And first of all, no matter what happens, I'm not going to be afraid or scared. And it's not because I'm brave. It's just because I've seen a lot of this stuff before coming out of the remnants of the deep state and the mainstream media. And they want to scare us, but I tell them what they can do with their plans to scare me. And it starts with get, and then a word that has 6 letters and starts with my first initial, F. Yeah, they're not going to scare me. I actually had 5 pedophile judges cooperate with one corrupt bank within 20 miles of my house in Plum City, Wisconsin, and a corrupt judge in the district court here in Pierce County, Wisconsin, and an unconstitutional sheriff here. And that sheriff is no longer the sheriff, because that sheriff developed brain cancer. The big pharma is sort of running scared, certainly, because Donald Trump is imposing cost limits or price limits on a lot of their products, because he's deploying superior technology, which can pretty much cure anything for free. And what I mean for free, there's 10,000 med beds distributed across America that will soon be taking appointments. And there's going to be priority for veterans, in which I'm a veteran of 3 military branches and 4 oaths. But the other group that's going to be getting an early access to a med bed is children. And, I'm very happy to tell people that the Children's Crusade is coming back, and it's going to come back as soon as some details can be worked out. And the reason it hadn't come back previously is I wasn't going to stand up in front of the Children's Crusade and, say something like, I'm your leader. I couldn't do that if I didn't have a woman to stand beside me. And now I have 3 or 4 women that would enjoy being part of the leadership of the Children's Crusade. And just as sort of a barometer of what the Children's Crusade can do, in March of 2019, when we had our meeting in Llangollen, North Wales, there were 30 to 50,000 sealed indictments around the world. And today, which is approximately 6 years later, hope I did the math correct. But anyway, there's 562,400 sealed indictments. And a sealed indictment can have up to 99 names in it. So you can take 1,000 times 562,400 indictments, and you can see, the growth in the prosecution of international child traffickers. Anybody seen Hillary lately? No. Anybody seen my sister lately? No. There's a lot of no's. George H.W. Bush? No. John McCain? No.
Field, I don't mean to be
I know.
rude, but I have to cut this off at 11 because I've got family here waiting for me. So I don't mean to cut you off, but can we revisit this on Monday?
Oh no, we'll start from a clean subject, and you're never rude to me. And I encourage you to tell me to be quiet. I will. I'm subservient. But anyway, thanks for your time, Jenny. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back here on Monday for Field, John Baxter, and Derek Johnson. Have a great weekend and happy Father's Day to all of you out there. Enjoy your weekend. God bless.
God bless you. Bye-bye.